The immune system, a system which controls the cytogenetic integrity of the organism, and you remember it's a part of the integral system first. Yeah, integral system first include cardiovascular system, lymphoid system, and endocrine system. Today we speak about immune organs and endocrine, and after 1 week about cardiovascular system, and totally it will be information about integral system first. First time, it's very important, really, organs and disorders. This organs, it's problem for organism. The immune system integrates organs and tissue. It's not only organs. Why system? Because it's organs and tissue that protect the body from foreign cells, genetically, or substances which have arrived from outside or formed in the body. It's not only when we breathe in, and it's all substances in the organism. Immunity. What is it? Immunity? It's a some variant. It's a ticket that allows a person to live in a peace microbes, and immunity a way to protect the body from living bodies and substances that bear the signs of genetic foreignness. It's a bacteria, viruses, protein, toxins, and etc. The immune system performs the function of health, constant internal environment throughout life, individual. And immunity, different type of the immunity. It's adaptive immunity and innate immunity. Adaptive immunity, nature and artificial, and passive and active present in a different immunity. As a variant, it's adaptive immunity, naturally and artificially, and active passive. You looked in different variant, and this is type present. Different lines, first, second, and third line immunity, and first line it's the skin, mucous membrane, and secretion, and normal flora. Second line, innate immune cells, inflammation, complement, and antimicrobial substances. And third line, it's a specialized lymphocyte, B and T cells. What does it mean? B, it's a bursa, and T, it's a thymus. B cells produced antibodies, and T cells, for example, T helper, T killer, and other. K, immune system, it's a have generally functions. It's a first, it's a protection from pathogens, different bacteria, viruses, protozoan, fungi, parasite, and creates an allergic response. Cleanup, removal of dead and damaged cells and components, recognition and removal of abnormal cells. For example, it's a cancer and autoimmune disorders. Cancers have atypical cells, and these atypical cells in a norm must be removed from the body, and produced immune cells, some function, especially lymphocytes and plasma, and provide recognition and destruction of cells that inflamed the body of their, and other substances that have think of genetic strange information. Immune organs are divided into central and peripheral. If you remember, how many totally lymph organs in the human body? It's a more near number 10. For example, how many tonsils? It's a number 6 tonsils. 6 tonsils near oral and nasopharynx. Next time is a thymus, spleen, red bone marrow, lymph nodes, appendix, and different lymphatic structure in the body. Okay, central immune system includes 2 organs. It's a bone marrow and thymus. Bone marrow, it's present not only in a one bone. Yes, it's a different bones in the human body's skeleton, and thymus, it's some organ located in the chest. The peripheral immune system includes spleen, lymph nodes, cluster of lymphoid tissue in the walls of the follow organ of digestive and respiratory tract, tonsils, it's a number 6, please remember 2 pair and 2 unpair, and lymphoid nodules, appendices, and ileum, and single lymphoid nodules, some structure and some hormones and liquid in this variant. It's a different type of the cells totally. And bone marrow, in the bone there are stem cells which form B lymphocytes in it independent zone from chemic differentiation. Thymus dependent, it doesn't mean T lymphocyte, which are formed from the cell stem cell. There are red bone marrow in adult is located in the cell sponge flat and short bones epiphysis along bones. Yellow marrow fills the diaphysis cavity of long bones. The total mass of the bone marrow in adult about 3 kilograms. Almost half of is red bone marrow, and balance it's a yellow bone marrow. And marrow red blood cells. You know, it's an erythrocyte, white blood cells, lymphocyte, monocyte, eosinophil, basophil, neutrophil, and platelets. It's a small portion too. Red bone marrow consisting of myeloid tissue, which includes the reticular tissue and hematopoietic elements. It contains stem hematopoietic cells, precursors of all cells in the blood and lymph. In the bone marrow, stem cells are predecessors of T and B lymphocyte, and big location in a different zone in human bones. Cells and tissue of immune system, it's lymphocytes, antigen presentive cells, effector cells, and lymphoid tissue, and the different cells in immune system in a myeloid, lymphoid, T cells, and B cells. 10 to 30% of population of lymphocyte, it's B lymphocytes. The main property of B lymphocyte is presence of the surface immunoglobulin identification antigen receptors. After interaction with the receptors, antigen B lymphocyte differentiate into plasma cells, whose primary function is the production of immunoglobulins. Totally, lymphocytes, white blood cells formed in bone marrow and active in lymphatic tissue. B cells matter in the bone marrow, and T cell in the thymus gland. And different move to lymph nodes. B cells recognize antigens, most produce antibodies, some remains in memory cells, and T cells, T helper, killer, suppressor, and memory cells, different all these cells recognize antigens and different other moment, especially for some cells. Thymus, it's a temporary organ. What does it mean temporary, for example? Why temporary? Because
it has a limited life. It has a limited life.
Yes, and it's this organ not located all life in the human body. Located along a middle line, situated partly in the thorax, partly in the neck, and extending from the costal cartilage upward. Is covered by the sternum and by muscles of the neck. Thymus has two lobes. Each the form consists of cortex and medulla. Cortex and capsule, cortex medulla in this variant, and medulla cell secretes hormone of thymus, which called thymical humoral factor, influencing differentiation of T lymphocyte, which progenitor cells in the cortex of the thymus. T lymphocyte include 13 and T-dependent peripheral RS form. It's a T killer, T helpers, and T suppressors. For example, here it's a thymus and different macrophage, T lymphocyte, medulla cortex. If a really big organ, it's not same with big function. It may present abnormal function in this organ in this variant. Okay, peripheral immune system. Peripheral immune system, immune organs are divided into capsulated organ. It's for example, spleen, lymphoid tonsil, and encapsulated. It's lymph tonsils. Function of peripheral immune system is being under influence of central immune. Yes. First one, it's a spleen. Spleen, lymphoid tissue in the spleen is connected to the circulatory system. You remember all blood moving after spleen, and spleen is on the way of blood flowing from arterial system, it's aorta, of the system of the portal hepatic vein. Spleen is dry blood, and it occurs on the one hand, the destruction of red blood cells and platelets, and on the other hand, lymphocytopoiesis with the formation lymphocytes related protective function of the spleen, its participation in the immune response. Here located spleen, it's connecting with cauda of the pancreas, after stomach, big portion, and location in with topography, it's a regio hypochondrica sinistra. Spleen consists of with red pulp, 80% parenchyma, and white pulp, near 20%. White pulp include lymphoid nodes around arteries and peripheral lymphoid sheaths. Lymphoid nodules around the artery provide independent zone, T-dependent zone, T and B dependent zone, and marginal zone, T and B sensitive. It's a totally external surface and in a section spleen and big portion blood located in the spleen and some portion blood in the spleen. It's very important for circulation when some disorders may present. The spleen develops from the dorsal mesentery at 5-6 weeks of fetal development, and some anomalies of spleen. It's a alienia with absent spleen. Yes, in a body. Anomalous form of the spleen do a deep cut and fissures, spleen bleeding, and spleen part, some division. Hypoplastic spleen or microsplenia. It's a hypoplasia of the spleen and which retains, however, its function. Spleen double. It's a doubling. The spleen is a rare. It's a may present double two in some region and in a different region. Additional spleen and ectopic spleen. Ectopic spleen may connect with some disorders. For example, it's when mirror located organs. Spleen, for example, located in the right region in the abdominal cavity, and liver in the left. It's located in a mirror, some organs in a organism. Lymph nodes lie on the path following the lymphatic vessels from organs and tissue to lymph duct and trunk, and lymph nodes located in all organism where present some cavity and spaces, for example, and lymph nodes, axillary cavity, inguinal region, big portion in neck and hand, biggest portion in abdominal and thoracic cavity. Lymph nodes has a different type of round shape. Their size from the 40 millimeters. Every lymph node covered with connective tissue outside, which makes capsule from which extends sink shifting inside the organs. And in the after capsule of lymph nodes located big portion lymphoid nodules, and in a schematic you looked, it's a capsula. Next one, it's a cortex, paracortex, and medulla in the internal structure. Lymph nodes lie toward flow of lymph from organs and tissue in the venous system. Foreign agent that reaches the lymph delayed and eliminated in the lymph nodes. Lymph nodes composed cortex medulla, and between cortex and medulla are paracortical zone. It's also called T-dependent area. And tonsils. Tonsils located in the walls of initial section of digestive and respiratory tract, forming especially ring Pirogov-Waldeyer. Tonsillar lymphoid tissue is at risk of oral cavity, nasal cavity on the one side and oral pharynx and larynx in the other. Tonsils, unpair, it's a lingual and pharyngeal, and pair, it's a palatine and tubal. Its structure located near choana and fauces in a radix of tongue located lingual tonsil near palatine tonsil near opening of tuba auditiva, it's a tubal tonsil, and here in a up region in a tonsil located pharyngeal tonsil. Totally tonsils, it is T independent organs of the peripheral immune system. And here it's some pharyngeal tonsil. Pharyngeal tonsil have name adenoid when big size and closed special way for air. It may present disorders of breathing. And cluster lymphoid tissue, lymphoid nodules in appendix, for example, maximal development after birth until 16-70 years, are located in the mucous and submucous in the body. It's some nodally lymphoid solitary in a ileum, and may present clusters of lymphoid tissue. It's a pairs, patches in a terminal region of the ileum. It's may present in the ileum and jejunum. When present nodally lymphoid aggregate, it's 100% will be ending terminals part of the ileum.